Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Chase Life podcast with myself, David Godfrey. So first of all, I promise Rachel will be joining us for another episode soon, but for right now, it's the DG show. So today I wanted to talk about how do you guarantee that you are going to be able to remain consistent, to remain completely on track with your food, with your nutrition, when you are in situations where you're caught out of your regular routine. And I know that this is an area that a lot of people struggle, is that when they are at home in their perfectly controlled environment and they have control over everything that they buy, at what times, and all of the ingredients they use and so on and so forth, then they feel like they are in control and they feel safe and secure. And the moment that they are out of that routine, they start to freak out or struggle, and they get caught with a lot of indecision, a lot of back and forth in their minds, and it creates a lot of worry, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety around food. And so this might be things like when you are traveling, or perhaps you're in a situation where you're the foods available are not ideal. Maybe you're staying with family, or maybe you're at a conference or a work function, and these types of situations and events. So this is a conversation that was born out of a conversation I had with a client last week, where she had some travel coming up and she was concerned about this. She was traveling to two other countries other than her own, so it was an extended trip. She was stopping off in one country for a while, then going to another one, and then flying back home. And obviously she knew that there was going to be a lot of situations that were going to be less than ideal, and a lot of situations where she wouldn't have perfect control over what she was going to have access to. And so she wanted to talk about, okay, what are going to be some of the things that are going to help me to be able to be as on track and consistent as possible in this situation, in this environment. So right at the start of the conversation, I said to her, right, I can tell that you are dying to dive into the strategy and talk about food and, you know, little secrets and little tips and tricks that are going to help you to be able to solve this problem. And, you know, okay, we're gonna dive onto Google first, and here's the secret search phrase that you're going to use that is going to pop up all of the healthy food joints and fast food joints and eateries in that radius. And that's going to give you where all of the supermarkets are, and it's going to give you where all of their healthy fast food joints are. So right now you've immediately got your options available. You're also going to look for some local knowledge. So you're going to call somebody up and say, hey, you know, where can I go, and what can I buy, and where from? And then also you're going to travel with some certain things that are going to really, really help. So you're going to travel with one of those like George Foreman grills, so that you can cook your own food in your hotel room. And you're going to be able to travel with some protein powder because you're allowed to take that overseas. So that's going to be a really useful little trick. And then you're going to maybe take some beef jerky, depending on which country you're going to. Obviously, some countries won't allow you to take that across the border, so you're going to have to check. So you're going to have to go online and have a look and see what you're allowed to take across, and this and this and this and this and this. And she laughed and she recognized, yeah, like that's exactly what I'm looking for. I want to know all of the tips and tricks and hacks and things that I can use that are going to help me to do this. And it's not that any of those things are irrelevant. Of course, we need to get resourceful and we need to figure out some solutions. Right? That's part of it. But the most important thing here is not the strategy. Because guess what? Everything that I could have proposed to her, she would have figured out, or she would have come up with excellent alternatives all by herself in a very relaxed way had she changed her mindset. And that's what we addressed. Because it makes sense that we're going to, you know, get concerned about food and food strategy, right? This is probably the biggest blind spot we come across in the work that we do. Certainly the work that we do in Chase Life Intensive and helping people to overcome struggles with food is that people think that the solution to their food struggles is food strategy. And it's not. It's all of the mindset work that underpins all of that. Everybody's obsessing over what's the best, approach to food and nutrition, and how can I control things, much more accurately, much more precisely, and so on and so forth. And they don't realize that the real reason why they're struggling with their results is because of all of the, as we like to call them, fuck it moments, right? It's a bad day. Well, you give yourself a break. Just this once, I promise it's the last time, etc., etc., etc. It's all of the fuck it moments that cause people to struggle and second guessing themselves and chopping and changing their approach over and over and over again, and being stuck in the head, overthinking, overanalyzing, having those, oh, what's the point in even trying moments, and so forth. That's the real reason why people are struggling. And one of the things that I pointed out to this client that she already knows is that she is incredibly smart, intelligent, and resourceful in all of the other areas of her life. Right? She has a very successful career. She's extremely good at her job, and she knows that she's really good at her job, not in an arrogant way, but just in a place of real confidence, self-confidence. And she knows that she can deliver in that arena. And also she has a family. She has small children to take care of. And again, more than very capable, incredibly resourceful, gets, more done in less time than most people are able to do. And one of the reasons she's able to do that is because she's really good at divergent thinking. So just to explain convergent versus divergent thinking. So convergent thinking is where there's a right answer and a wrong answer. And this is typically what we're taught in school. Right? Think mathematics, think the sciences, think languages. There's a right answer and there's a wrong answer. It's very black and white in that regard. And that's important for us to learn. But there's another type of thinking which is incredibly important, vital skill for life that isn't as effectively taught in most school systems that I'm aware of, at least, which is divergent thinking, which is, right, there's a problem and here's a bunch of options. In fact, we're not even going to give you the options. You're the one who's going to figure out what potential solutions we could use. And none of those solutions are going to be ideal. There is not a right answer here. Every single one of those options is going to be flawed. Pick one. I once heard a talk by somebody talking about leadership. I forget who it was. If you know, you can let me know. Where they said that leadership is not being presented with a bunch of options and picking the best one. Anybody can do that. A 5-year-old can do that. It's about being presented with nothing but bad options, and those are the only options available, and you've got to choose one, knowing that you're going to be criticized for having made a bad decision. Why? Because you did. You just decided that was going to be the least worst option. That's leadership, right? And that is divergent thinking, whereby, first of all, we have to get creative and resourceful in figuring out some solutions. And secondly, recognize that it's completely imperfect. There is no right answer. And so you've got to pick one. Now, returning to the topic of travel and food, obviously it's not as extreme as perhaps some of the examples that I've just been presenting, in the sense that, of course, you can make some smart decisions. And of course, you can remain consistent and on track. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be ideal, but it's not like, you're choosing the, only bad options and you just got to pick one bad option. No, you're going to have some decent options there. So it's not even that extreme. But this client was clearly capable of very effective divergent thinking in all of the other areas of her life. But when it came to food, because that was connected to her individual source of frustration and insecurity, that's what led to all of these panicked responses. And oh my God, I'm not going to be able to get it perfect, and I can't control it, and what if this and what if that, and all of the overthinking and all of the stress and overwhelm that comes with that obviously leads to poor quality decisions like, well, it can't be done, so what's the point in even trying, or excessive neuroticism and overthinking and all of these things that are not going to be conducive to being able to be consistent, and again leads to those types of fuck it moments or what's the point moments. So there's three key aspects of the mindset here for us to address. So the first one is perfectionism. Perfectionism is not the same as high standards. We've said this time and time and time again, but sometimes people mistakenly think that, it's just that I'm a perfectionist because I have such high standards and such high expectations of myself. The truth is, no, it's the exact opposite of high standards. Why? Because it's an impossible standard. So therefore, you have no standard. You've bought into the belief that the only way that you can be successful is to get things absolutely perfect. And if you can't get it perfect, then it's a lost cause. And what's the point? So of course it leads to the all or nothing mindset, which is, well, I'm going to be traveling and I can't control things perfectly, so what's the point in even trying? And the process of trying to figure out some solutions is so monumentally stressful, and I'm not getting anywhere because I'm not discovering the right or the perfect solution, so screw it. And then you just forget all about it, and I'll get back on track when I get back from my travels, which you might be able to live with if it's a couple of days, but if it's an extended travel like this one, then all of a sudden it becomes a real major issue and you're freaking out about it. So that's the first key thing, is perfectionism. Now, this is also linked to the second thing, which is the desperation mindset. The desperation mindset is where you are utterly desperate to make this change in your life, not from a place of freedom, not from a place of choice where you've identified this exciting, compelling future for yourself that just excites you and lights you up so much that you're now fully committed to that journey, not from that place, but from a place of fear and what you're trying to escape and the pain that you're trying to eliminate in your life. And this is usually a self-worth thing. It's essentially coming from a place of, I will only be enough when ... when I'm skinny enough, etc., etc. And even if you're not aware of it being that extreme, there's definitely some level of self-rejection where you're essentially saying, I'm not okay being me in this body. I'm not comfortable with that. Now, a lot of people, their immediate reaction is going to be like, well, yeah, obviously, and that's going to be a great source of motivation. Now, that's true. We've discussed push and pull motivation in other episodes, and push motivation, which is being driven by the pain, is useful. It's usually what gives us a kick up the arse. But so many people have that as their only driving force. So firstly, pain can be useful depending on how it's structured, but if it's coming from a place of, I am fundamentally not enough, and I will only be enough when I'm skinny enough, pretty enough, attractive enough, something enough, muscular enough, or anything else for that matter. Obviously, right now, our focus is body image, but people can latch on to other things. Rich enough, successful enough, funny enough, academic enough. Right? I need to prove that I'm enough before I finally get to be at peace in who I am, before I truly accept who I am. So their level of self-acceptance is conditional. And we've spoken about this time and time and time again, how this is one of the counterintuitive solutions that we have to address, is that people's intuition tells them that if I step into self-acceptance, I'm just going to settle for where I'm at. I'll just make it okay to keep going in this body with these habits, and I'll lower my standards. Well, ironically, this is a real paradox. It's completely counterintuitive. The truth is that if you don't unconditionally accept yourself, you are stuck 24/7 not feeling like you're enough, which is going to be the precursor to all of the fuck it moments. Your emotions are going to be very volatile. Your motivation to stick to your diet, Your consistency with your diet is going to be very volatile based on whether you believe you're able to get there in the first place. And your ability to believe whether you're able to get there in the first place is going to be dependent on needing to see significant, visible results every single day. Right? This is why people are getting on the weighing scales every single day. It's not about the scientific data. It's not about data collection. It's about emotional reassurance. Please reassure me that I can get there. Am I there yet? Am I there yet? Am I there yet? Is this ever going to happen? When is this going to happen? When is it? When is it? Has it happened yet? Has it happened yet? Please reassure me that I can do this. It's all about the emotional reassurance. It's not about collecting scientific data. Why? Because they're desperate. And hopefully you can tell how that mindset is going to lead to self-sabotage. You're going to have countless moments where you lose hope, when we all know logically that weight loss is never a straight line. Right? It's kind of like a trending stock, right? It wiggles. Sometimes it plateaus, sometimes you even gain weight temporarily, etc. There's all manner of things that are going to affect that, but it's the long-term pattern, the long-term trend that matters. But you're not going to be looking at the long-term trend. You're going to be obsessed over the minutiae and the day-to-day fluctuations when you're in that desperation mindset. You're going to overthink every single individual event as opposed to looking at the big picture pattern. That's what's going to happen when you are in that place of self-rejection, essentially, where you don't have that genuine, sincere, true core confidence that comes from within, where you have that self-acceptance. And now that self-acceptance means you're emotionally stable. You're not going to be volatile around food. You're not going to freak out around food or exercise or short-term fluctuations. And because you're not going to freak out, you're able to be consistent. So of course, when you have unconditional self-acceptance, you can still have goals. Right? The example I give with this all the time is with financial goals, because I think people get it more intuitively perhaps, which is if you have that unconditional self-acceptance, you can still have big, audacious financial goals. But not because you need those accolades in order to prove something to anyone, not because you need to be rich in order to prove something to somebody so that you can finally feel like you're enough and accept who you are. Purely because of the lifestyle you want to create. You want to be able to experience everything that life has to offer. You want to contribute on a bigger scale. You want to put your family through private healthcare. If you've got kids, you want to put them through private schooling perhaps. You want to contribute to causes that matter to you in the world. And you want to have a great time at the same time and enjoy, the luxuries that you're able to afford. So your financial goals are driven by that's fun for you. That's an extraordinary quality of life for you. Not because you need to prove anything to finally feel like, oh yeah, now I'm enough. Guess what? It's exactly the same with your body. So of course you can have big, audacious body goals too. Want to be in the best shape of your life. And be in a state of total self-acceptance for where you're currently at right now. Right? So that's critical. That's one of the foundations for eliminating the yo-yo cycle and on and off the wagon forever. So that's one of the key things, and that's how we eliminate the desperation mindset, is we need to give you an entirely new relationship with yourself. Right? Teach you how to relate to yourself in a whole new way, whereby you're able to have that unconditional self-acceptance where you're so at peace in yourself and so comfortable with yourself, whilst also being so excited about the life you're headed towards and the goals that you're committed to. Right? You're able to have the two together. And so now, as a consequence, we eliminate the desperation mindset. Why? Because I'm fully committed. Right? This is happening. I've had my epiphany. I've had my significant emotional event that either life has given me or I've given myself through the mindset work. But I've had my significant emotional event that means this is happening. I am now a fit, healthy, lean, athletic person. It's just that I need time for my physiology to catch up and represent that sense of identity in who I am. So this is happening. This is a done deal. And whether it happens in 6 weeks or 6 months or 18 months, I don't really care. Now, sure, if I could have it quicker, if I could have it in 6 weeks, sure, I'd choose that. But either way, I am genuinely in love with the journey and with the process. I've learned to sincerely fall in love with the process of healthy living, which I'll come on to in more detail in a bit. So now I'm just consistent. My reactions to food and exercise and my body are not on this constant roller coaster all the time. I'm just consistent. I know exactly what I'm committed to. Just do the basics. And I get resourceful when things are, perhaps less than ideal. And so now we've eliminated the desperation mindset. So now hopefully you can see how, when you're in that place, how you're going to show up to this topic of travel or being caught out of your routine in a whole new way. It's going to be night and day, right? You're not going to freak out about it. You're not going to be stressed about it. Sure, there's some things to figure out. Again, you've got to get resourceful. You've got to figure out some solutions, but you're going to do that. You're going to get on with it. And then when we combine that with eliminating the perfectionism, which is, okay, great. If the only way that I can remain consistent with my food and my nutrition is when everything is perfect, that's not high standards. High standards is doing the basic fundamentals when life is stressful, busy, and chaotic and unpredictable, and being able to make the best choices that I can with the options that I have available when things are imperfect and when I'm out of my regular routine. Right? That's now high standards as opposed to perfectionism. And so now when you're in that frame of mind, then you fully acknowledge that, okay, it's not going to be perfect, but I'm going to do the best that I can. And you're going to be intelligent with how you allocate your mental resources. Are you going to spend the next 48 hours with no sleep, desperately Googling everything and phoning people up and, figuring out your meal plan and your routine for every single meal of every single day on this 2-week travel over? Of course not. That's going to be a complete waste of your time. That's not intelligent. That's not thinking big picture and strategically. So you're going to be intelligent. You're going to figure out some of the basics. And then you're also going to back yourself with this whole mentality, which is when I'm overseas, I know that there's still going to be some additional things for me to figure out when I get there. And I know I'll be able to do that in a calm way, in a confident way, and I'll figure things out one step at a time. So you come up with, a few basic simple strategies for before you head overseas. And then when you're there, you figure things out as you go as well, knowing that you're going to be able to do that in a calm, confident way and to make smart, sensible decisions. So this is, with going back to this client, this is what she was already doing in other areas of her life. That's why she was so successful and was able to organize and run a home and a household as well at the same time and have everything function really well. She just hadn't applied that same resourcefulness to this other area. Why? Because she was in the desperation mindset. This was the one area of her life that she was holding her self-worth to ransom over. Complete lack of self-acceptance until. And ironically, that is the very thing that kept her stuck in that place. So that's the eliminating the desperation mindset and the perfectionism. And then the final thing is making sure that healthy living genuinely is one of your highest values. And again, one of my quotes that I use all the time is the only way that fat loss lasts long term is when you sincerely fall in love with the process of healthy living. Now, for so many people, they think that they value health, but in truth, they are, again, in the desperation mindset and they only value aesthetics and they are willing to sacrifice health in order to look a certain way so that they can finally accept who they are and finally be at peace within themselves. That's not valuing health. Now, they think they value health because the strategies that they use to try to manipulate their body so that they can get that self-acceptance obviously involve eating some better quality foods, healthy foods, etc. So they think they value health, but they don't. And what tells us that? Well, whenever things are imperfect, they go, screw it, this can't be done, what's the point in even trying? That's not valuing health, is it? And so make sure that this is always done via health. Whatever your aesthetic goals are, that's great. Have your aesthetic goals. That's cool. That's fine. But it has to be done via health, first and foremost. It can never be done at the expense of health. And so if health genuinely is one of your highest values, then when you're caught out of routine, then okay, great. You'll figure things out and you'll do the best that you can. You won't throw the baby out with the bathwater and go, screw it. I might as well just eat, drink, be merry and overindulge and completely throw to the wayside any health goals or values that I had, any promises that I had made to myself. I might as well just throw that to the wayside because what's the point? Again, that's not valuing health. Which is why it's so important that you actually reassess and ask yourself, okay, what do I value? What is genuinely important? Take a step back, look big picture. What's sincerely important to you? What do you value? Do you really value health? And your values are going to be dictated by your behaviors. And if your behaviors in the past have not been conducive to health, then get emotionally connected to why it is important to you. What does healthy living add to your life in terms of value? What does it add to your life in every moment of every day? How is everything in your life enhanced when you prioritize health? Your mood, your mindset, your emotions, your ability to be fully present and in the moment, your cognitive function, your resilience and tenacity, your ability to get things done, get more things done in less time, your ability to focus and to concentrate, your ability to learn, your ability to creatively problem solve, the emotional freedom that you feel because you know you've got this area of your life handled, so you don't have to be stuck in your head concerned about it all the time, 24/7, how you show up in your career, the confidence that you now have. Now your word means something. You actually deliver on your promises and do what you said you were going to do. So now, of course, you back yourself that much more. You're progressing that much faster in your career and other people notice that. And people respect you that much more for it, and people are willing to follow you. You become that much more of a leader because you're leading by example. It's not do as I say, not as I do. And you're showing up in your relationships in an entirely different way, whether it's dating and meeting somebody, or whether it's in your romantic relationship, whether you're with someone or whether you're married, if you have children, the role model that you're being, and so on and so on and so on. When you're emotionally connected to all of that, now, why would you choose anything different? Why would you choose an alternative life? Now you value health because we've connected the behavior to other things that you value. You value being successful and being able to think clearly and being intelligent and being a fast learner. You value being a role model for your kids, etc. So now you've connected making smart choices with food to all of this myriad of benefits and other things that you value in your life. And when we have all of that in place, now let's return to your original question, which is, how am I going to do this? How am I going to manage? Oh yeah. It's so simple, isn't it? I am a fit, lean, healthy person, right? Notice how all of this changes your identity. I often talk about identity as being one of the pivotal things, one of the most powerful driving forces in your life that dictates the results that you get in anything. And oftentimes I use the example of a smoker who shifts their identity to being a non-smoker. Right? That identity shift happens in a moment of clarity where they make a proper decision. I'm sure you've heard of people quitting smoking just from deciding to one day. And they didn't need any other intervention like hypnosis, patches, e-cigarettes, gum. Didn't need to read a book. Didn't need anything else other than they had that mental clarity. They made a proper decision. Now, in that moment of a proper decision, they literally became a non-smoker in that moment. Right? Notice the difference in, firstly, the identity statement, but also the commitment between somebody's offered a cigarette and one person goes, oh, no, thank you, I'm trying to quit. And somebody else says, no, thanks, I'm a non-smoker. I don't smoke. Right? Completely different energy. That's what happens when you shift your identity into this new space. Now, literally everything that they do, every interaction they have with everything in their life, interaction with cigarettes, interaction with the smell of cigarettes, interaction with other people, people who smoke, people who don't smoke, interaction with alcohol if they go out and drink, interaction with work, interaction with when they're stressed or they're confused or they're overwhelmed or they're struggling at work. Their interaction with every single one of those moments and those events is as the identity of a non-smoker. And so therefore it just becomes a foregone conclusion. And they don't have to wait to become that person, and they don't have to wait to prove that they are. What would that even mean? Right, in order for you to prove that you are a non-smoker, you need to go for 5.5 days without smoking. Just plucking numbers out of thin air. They don't need to wait. They don't need to wait for the nicotine to come out of their system. They don't need to wait for all of the withdrawal symptoms to disappear. Sure, in the short term, their brain's going to go, ooh, 10 o'clock, cigarette break time. But they're going to respond to that thought as a non-smoker. Right? Just because they had that thought, there's nothing sinister going on there. It's just like a thought that gets stuck in your head, just like you hear a nursery rhyme over and over and over again because your kids or your nieces or your nephews or whoever has been playing this song on repeat, and it just kind of gets stuck in your head. And in the same way, your brain goes, ooh, cigarettes. But because you're a non-smoker now, you just go, hell no, and then you just move on. You respond as a non-smoker. And so you don't need to wait to prove that you're a non-smoker. That's literally who you are from that point onwards. And so notice how all of what I've just been through with this scenario has completely shifted your identity to somebody who just is this way. I am the identity of a lean, fit, healthy person. Now, even if your physical body might not be lean yet, that's how you think of yourself in terms of identity. In the same way that, for example, an athlete sees themselves as an athlete. I am an athlete. Now, they might be injured and not be able to play their sport or compete or train in any way for an entire season. And as a result, their body goes out of condition. Maybe they gain some weight or, certainly out of condition in some way. But guess what? They think of themselves as an athlete. So they're going to respond to this situation, this problem as an athlete. In the same way that if you think of yourself as a lean, fit, healthy person and you have, some kind of accident or some kind of disease or condition or disorder that causes your weight to gain momentarily, you don't suddenly see yourself as, now I'm an overweight and unhealthy person in a way that I take on as my identity and defines me. No, I am a lean, fit, healthy person. And in the same way, even if your body isn't quite where it's going to be yet, you're relaxed about it. It's, there's still some excess fat stores on my body in some certain areas, but it will be gone. It's already a done deal. But I am this identity. This is just who I am. So your body is a delayed representation of your identity. It's not a representation necessarily of who you are right now. It's a representation of who you used to be. It's a physical manifestation of who you used to be. And you don't need to wait to become or transform your identity. That happens in a moment of decision, just like with the smoking example. And they don't need to wait for the nicotine to disappear. They don't need to wait for the withdrawal symptoms to disappear. That's literally who they are from that point onwards. And then their body just catches up, right? Their body, in that moment of decision, their lungs are still black and tarred. But they are a non-smoker. It's just they need time for their lungs to catch up and then be a physical manifestation of this new identity. And this is the same. So if you take that identity that you may have in other areas like this client of mine did, where she's a bold, decisive action taker, she's resourceful, she's intelligent, she's an incredible problem solver in every other area of her life, and then she just takes on that identity in terms of, that's who I am in everything that I do. And she inserts that into this topic of travel and figuring this stuff out. Oh, great, now all of a sudden it's easy. So now hopefully you can recognize that the secret master strategy to being able to be consistent and on track when you're caught out of routine isn't in the techniques and the tips and the tricks and the hacks. Those are useful, right? Those are useful. And for sure, you can take inspiration from some other people's ideas. You're going to figure some of them out on your own too. But when you approach this entire topic with this identity, all of a sudden, it becomes easy. That is how you're able to be consistent year round, no matter what life looks like, even when life is busy, chaotic, stressful, unpredictable. Well, guess what? Healthy living is one of your highest values, so you do it anyway. Even in the times when it's imperfect, you still make the best choice that you can with whatever options you have available. And that's what enables you to be in great shape year round. I'm not going to say effortlessly because there's still some work to do, but it certainly feels effortless when you compare it to the alternative, which is all of the overwhelm and stress and overthinking and back and forth and on the wagon, off the wagon and losing hope and faith in yourself in the process. That's the solution. So anyway, I hope you guys found that super useful. That's enough from me for today, and we will see you on the next episode.